Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hey, That's Easy. I'm your host, Lawton Luntz. This is episode 1 of season 2. Hard to believe. And we have another great show ahead with a very diverse group of individuals. If you like food, finance, or fitness, this is definitely the show for you. Joining me is my co-host, Ava. Welcome. Happy holidays to you.
Season's greetings, Lawton and everyone. Thank you. We made it to another season, another new year coming up, and you're absolutely right. This is some really important topics we're going to discuss tonight, especially with the current climate and everything going on. So I'm so excited to hear from these professionals on what we can all do to better ourselves in this arena.
Without question, a lot of great timing topics as well with the food and finance as we move into 2022. Russell Wright's going to join us, talk about unconscious bias. And of course, we have a fitness Olympian as well. It's like I said, it's a show for just about everyone.
That's right. I can't wait to hear from them. It's so exciting. And I love your background, by the way.
So I was trying to go holiday-esque, right? And so I've got some Christmas lights, behind me, jazzing it up with my sweater. I felt like, that was the best I could do until my official office and studio is ready in February. I can't wait to roll that out. That'll be very exciting.
Yeah, great things to come. I know you've been traveling so much, but yeah, it looks like the Northern Lights coming out behind you. I like it, but I think I got you beat cool. Once again with the holiday.
And really that's all I aspire to is having a background that competes. I just want to be in the conversation.
Many do.
Even if you
come close.
Well, like I said, a great show ahead coming up later. We have Russell Wright. He was a guest before on a previous episode. He stops by to educate on the topic of unconscious bias. And also Wahida Aziz will be here to talk about women's finance, sorry guys, and making good financial decisions as we lead into 2022. But up first, let's welcome our first guest. Very excited and literally spring into action. Letitia Jackson is a walking resume. In addition to being an author and a motivational speaker, Action, as she is called, is also a veteran, a 3-time NPC fitness champion, and a 2008 fitness Olympian. Let's welcome Action to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello. This is Letitia Action Jackson. How are you?
I'm doing well. I tried to give you a great intro, the best I could. Your list of accomplishments is extremely impressive. But I have to. My first question to you is, what are you most passionate about? It's a long list of accomplishments.
Oh my goodness, Lawton, I cannot choose just one. I have to tell you though, if I had to narrow everything down that I have worked extremely hard to accomplish, it would be about transformation, about positive transformation in not only my own life, but I have touched so many lives. And at the end of the day, I believe each and every one of us was created with a purpose, on purpose, for purpose. So I'm most passionate about people and transformation.
Yes, givers gain. You get what you put in. I love it.
Yes, I love it.
I feel like I should be billed just for talking to Tisha for a few minutes because she pumped me up. I was like, she just motivates you. I mean, it's everything, just her voice, her enthusiasm. So I'm so excited to hear what she has to say. What's the most significant accomplishment you would say so far of all the things you've done, Letitia? If you had a highlight or a memorable moment, what would you say the thing you're most proud of so far?
I definitely would say my most proud moment is overcoming domestic violence, really taking a step back from all of the accomplishments, taking a step back from the titles, the fans, the TV, the accolades. At 28 years old, I found myself in a closet with hands wrapped around my neck with the very breath that God had given me dissipating, slowly leaving me. And I thought I was going to die. And at that time, my sense of self was very distorted. I lived on the outside in. I thought my medals, my accomplishments, my degrees, I've been in Oxygen Magazine, Muscle and Fitness Hers. You Google my name, I've been everywhere. But the sad thing about it was I was so busy working on the outside, I had neglected to address a lot of the internal traumas that I had dealt with growing up, and they came back to haunt me. And so for me, being a survivor and a thriver of domestic violence, and stripping away the medals and stripping away the degrees and stripping away the titles that the outside world had given me, and truly sitting with myself from an internal perspective and identifying the trauma and the codependency and the anxiety and all the things that success covered up. I dealt with the internal being that I was strong on the outside, but broken on the inside. So it took me, I would say I'm at the end point of that healing journey. And by far, that's been the most rewarding and the hardest work I've ever done. Learning to love and accept myself, not because of what I do, but because of who I am.
Wow. If you can overcome that, you can overcome anything. My goodness, that is some powerful trajectory you must have had within to be able to get over that. So really, I don't see how anyone can't come back from a hard situation, overcome that. In fact, a lot of your work is talking about empowerment of women in particular. In fact, I know that you've done lots of great speeches for corporations and people who need this kind of professional development. What do you think is the biggest issue that's holding women back from being a leader? What traits, kind of hold women back in general when it comes to the business aspect of life for us?
I think women are so busy working on what they do. Very few of us have been given the space, the time, or the permission to work on who we are. And there's a difference between what you do in leadership and who you are as a leader and as a woman. And from a social and cultural standpoint, there are so many things that we're expected to do. We're expected to show up a certain way. And to be honest with you, I think so many women are afraid to show up authentic because they don't really know their authentic self because they never really got to know that part of themselves. And so for me, I've had opportunities to speak in front of 3,000 to 4,000 women in the military, and to have all of these women, I mean, brigadier generals and the top echelon of these women speak with me behind the doors and share their internal struggles and share that they themselves has been abused and they themselves struggle with lack of self-esteem. I don't think women have been given a space to be vulnerable, to say, I don't know who I am. I'm afraid of this. And yet we still haven't been given the space to say, I am powerful. I am strong. So I think that there's so much confusion. Do I show my strong side? Do I show my vulnerable side? Do I show the hurt? Or do I always have to be in this position where I have it together? And because of that, we're going back and forth and there's this internal conflict. But to me, the greatest leaders are those women that show up and say, today's been a really bad day. Today, I do not have it all together and I'm leaning on my team. But because women are perceived as not being good leaders or they have to be likable, they jeopardize authenticity.
That's so true. When you think about it, sometimes the very things that make us different, men and women, are the things that, we should bring to the business, the workplace, and, have those parts of us because that makes us real. So absolutely. So I'm surprised that a lot more people don't, study and read up on this cause, especially, because there's more and more female leaders coming out there. So do you offer services for corporations? I know that I saw that you did some guest speaking spots. What kind of services can you provide to businesses such as universities, corporations that can help their employees take advantage of this empowerment, these techniques?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I do through my coaching academy called Empowered Coaching, which starts with the letter N, is that I teach leaders that a woman must lead from her power from within. And one of the things that we have been taught all of our lives is if you look up the word empowerment, the EMPW term, way of spelling it, it means to give authority, to give power. No one gives a woman her power nor her authority. It is her divine right. What we have to do is teach women to activate what's within them and then provide resources, tools, and programs to help them develop it. And that's what we do at Empower Coaching Academy. If a woman always feels as if she does not have power, she will never develop it. And that's why we call our coaching academy empowerment, because everything a woman needs is within her. And it's within you. So if you're speaking in a crowd of 10 people, if you're speaking in a crowd of one person, or if you're speaking in a crowd like myself of 3,000, I am the same in every one of those rooms, because the core of who I am is from within myself. And that is when a woman learns to lead, and she's not afraid. I have tons of energy. I am very dynamic. But as I started to grow and develop my own sense of self, a lot of people tried to put me in this little box. And I refuse to be in that box. I'm too big for that. And that's the kind of work that we do here at Empower Coaching Academy. We've delivered workshops at Microsoft, UC Davis, around colleges, military bases. And let me tell you something. When a woman believes within herself that she's capable of anything, the entire world around her begins to look differently.
Action, we have a question from one of our guests.
Yes.
She says, I want to empower myself both physically and mentally, but I'm always tired from work. Or how do you get yourself up to motivate yourself?
Well, I will tell her this. One of the things that I live by is that I don't look for motivation. I look for commitment. Okay. And I say that because we live in a society, especially with January coming, everyone, you'll start to see it on commercials and you'll start to hear it repeated. It's a new year. It's a new you. I don't believe in that. I believe at any moment during the day, I can look at myself and say, hey, I am committed to myself. And if she's physically and mentally burned out, I would also suggest taking an assessment of where your energy is being given. Mm-hmm. Are you in too many places? Are you afraid to delegate? Are you at the top of the hour making sure that you are feeding yourself before you feed the world? I often tell people the world can wait for me until I'm ready to show up. And so if that means going to bed earlier, go to bed earlier. If that means waking up earlier while the house is quiet, wake up earlier. Find out what makes you feel internally energized. Eat foods that make you feel energized. Take mental breaks throughout the day. And speak up for what you want, need, and desire, because that within itself will drain you mentally.
I was going to talk about your book, actually, because New Year's Eve is coming. Resolutions once again, right?
Yes.
Weight loss, always the forefront. But I thought you had a unique take on weight loss, actually, with the title of your book. Tell us about your book and your kind of thoughts on weight loss and fitness for women and the image that women have in their minds about what is the perfect body and so forth. You had some great thoughts on that.
Absolutely. I've written 13 books, but I think you're talking about my women's health and wellness book called Goodbye Skinny, Hello Size Healthy.
Yes, that one.
Yes.
Great title.
Thank you. I will tell you, I have had the honor of coaching thousands and thousands of women just in the health space alone. And one of the common themes I would always hear is when I reach this amount, and every woman has her own amount, but when she reaches this certain amount of weight, everything around her would change. And I realized that society has once again put this image of what healthy and fit is, and every woman stands next to that image and tries to duplicate or replicate it. Goodbye Skinny, Hello Size Healthy is about teaching women how to become a size healthy. That means your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, your nutritional health, seeing each other from a holistic standpoint. And in Goodbye Skinny, I say it's like having a nutritionist, your best friend, your personal trainer, and your mom in one book, because your mom loves you no matter what, right? Your mom's the one that's supposed to tell you, baby, you're beautiful and you're perfect the way you are. And that's my philosophy. Every woman must find what makes her feel healthy. And that changes as we evolve. And that's what Goodbye Skinny, Hello Size Healthy is. Saying goodbye to these skinny, get fit quick schemes and say hello to size healthy.
I love the commitment piece. That's so great, because at any point in time, you don't really need the new year to turn over to start a new commitment to yourself. It can just happen at any moment. You just have to decide to do that. So my last question for you, Action, is, do you have a testimonial or a story that has really wowed you? Maybe the impact you've made on someone, or someone that's actually told you how you've impacted their life, and maybe you didn't even know that you did that much.
Oh my gosh, Lawton, I have so many amazing stories. I'm asked this question a lot, and I have to be very honest with you. Every story that I hear is like the first story I've ever heard.
That's great.
So there's never one that has more impact than the other, because I believe that every woman or young girl or whomever, God has given me the opportunity to plant a seed in their life. However it changed them, I'm grateful for it. So there's so many different stories, and you guys are playing some of my speaking. This one in particular, I was speaking to about 600-700 women, and you can't pick just one story because they're all valuable. They all mean something to me. They make me a better woman. The stories are in my heart. They're written in stone. And so every one of them have helped me become who I am.
Well, Action, we certainly appreciate you stopping by the show tonight. You can check her out. Empowered, right? Empowered is your company. Check that out. I know she has a Facebook page. Check out Letitia Action Jackson. Very inspiring, and remember, commitment. You can start at any time. Thanks so much
right.
for joining me tonight.
You're welcome. And the company's called Empowered Coaching Academy. And the website is empoweredcoaching.com. And we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on Instagram.
Love it. Thanks so much for joining the show. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
I wish you
All right,
the
Action.
best. Happy holidays. Thank you so much. Wow.
Yeah, inspiring. Energy was right off the top, right? Even though we didn't have a chance to see her, we were able to see her on video, but right from the top, she was.
That was great. Yeah, I mean, we could spend hours talking to Action. She has such great advice, but that's why all these corporations can reach out and maybe get a session with her. So do reach out to her. And,
without question. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the workplace as we keep it going. Our next guest has previously been a guest on Hey, That's Easy. We invited him back to speak on unconscious bias. Russell Wright has been dubbed the true definition of a servant leader whose passion is helping individuals overcome limiting beliefs and potential life challenges. Russell, happy holidays and welcome back, sir.
Happy holidays. Good to see you guys again.
I think that's a great topic. I was actually very excited when we started talking about it a few weeks back and having you on the show. And for those that may be unfamiliar, unconscious bias can be defined as social stereotypes that people form outside of their own conscious awareness. And I want to start with a question in regards to hiring. One of the many things that comes to mind for me about unconscious bias is someone's resume and developing an opinion about them without ever maybe even meeting them, just kind of looking at words on a paper. How much, we talked about the workplace a little bit with Action when she was just here. How much do you think that the workplace, for starters, is affected by unconscious bias?
Oh, a lot. It's a great. You were talking about the resume. One of the things that we teach students is to remove their city, remove their name, because, we have name bias. That's one of the big things regarding bias, unconscious bias in the workplace, name, based on your name. So simply when a person gets a resume and they look at the name, they either decide at that moment, like, no, I'm not going to interview this person. Maybe their name's too difficult, or maybe they come from a different group or a different socioeconomic background. All those things plays in effect when you're looking at the resume. And that's very, very important. And that's one of the reasons why now corporations are telling employees, or especially the HR people, is tired to remove those things. So the HR manager will be the only person that can truly identify the candidate. But when the resume goes to the hiring manager, there's nothing on there other than their qualifications. You can't tell if they're, their gender, you can't tell their sex. You can't even tell where they're from within the city.
It's great for starters, and there's a lot of bias, not only just in the workplace, but I mean, even if someone's wearing like a team shirt that you don't like, you might not ever meet that person to have a conversation, but right away you might have formed an opinion about them. Where would you start or suggest? Because obviously this is, there's many layers to this, and can be found in many different avenues of life. Where do you suggest people start with overcoming unconscious bias?
Actually, looking at emotional intelligence, you hear a lot about DEI and B, diversity, equity, inclusion, and believing or belonging. But to me, it's like when you say diversity, you cannot just explain diversity without going to unconscious bias, because that's the key point of diversity. Why is it that I did not hire a particular individual, or this young lady or this young man or someone that's of a different ethnic group? Why did I not? So therefore, you have to search within yourself, and there comes what we call EQ or IQ, which is emotional intelligence, and to self-reflect on your emotions. Because we had there was a story about a supervisor that interviewed a lady, but the supervisor did not like polka dots. She did not like red polka dots. So the young lady that was being interviewed wore a red polka dot scarf. Little did she know, because the hiring manager at the time did not like it, the candidate was automatically disqualified for any form of employment. And as the hiring manager started to reflect on, okay, I didn't like red polka dots. It's not that the person wasn't qualified, it was that the person had the red polka dot and they did not like the red polka dot. So you have to start with self-reflection. What is it about the red polka dots that I don't like, or why is it that I don't like red polka dots?
Right.
So you have to look within yourself. Oh, it's a lot of stories out there.
Oh yeah.
Never wear red polka dots again.
Never wear red polka dots. And being in the South, I'm a big Pepsi drinker. I like Pepsi. But being here in Georgia, that's Coke City.
That's Coke country, yeah.
Yeah. So I get a lot of looks when I go into a restaurant and say, "Hey, you have Pepsi?" They be like, "Well, no."
Not out here, yeah. Not in these parts, right?
Yeah.
So, what are some of the other techniques, Russell, to overcoming unconscious bias? How can we every day take those little tips and be aware of that? Is it just reflection? Do we have to make a conscious effort with every decision we make, and just kind of, have some words or affirmations we can use daily? Because I think we all have those split seconds where we make judgments about people, or, what have you, just because we were all raised a certain way, or we have those, gravitations to things we like and don't like.
It is. I mean, mindfulness is anything that you can actually utilize to bring the subconscious or unconscious into conscious. The subconscious actually takes in roughly around 11 million bits of information per second, which is totally a lot of information. But the conscious can only process anywhere from 40 to 50. So the mind has to start categorizing things, which means now I'm leaving out information. So the reason that does that, say, for example, in prehistoric times, you see a saber-toothed tiger and you're like, well, okay, I'm walking, I see it, it's kind of big, it's furry, I see the fangs. It's like, so by the time you process that, well, you're dinner for something. So now that the brain actually, from experience, not personal experience, but maybe seeing somebody else become dinner or whatever, start categorizing. And now that they see the saber-tooth, it classifies danger, run, do whatever I got to do. And so in the process now, when you're looking at things like that, for example, when you were a child or you feed your child vegetables, they may eat a vegetable that they do not like. And, as parents, we always say, you got to eat your vegetables. You got to eat your vegetables. Well, because of that experience of eating that one vegetable that they don't like, now they categorize all vegetables. As soon as you say the word vegetable, it's like, I'm not going to eat that. And even myself, being brought up and they were like eating vegetables, I was like, I don't want to eat no vegetables. I don't want to eat. And so one of the main things was eggplant. And so when I used to work at the bank, in California, they would always take care of you and feed you all this food. And the lady had this particular dish, and I ate it. I said, wow, this is really good. What is it? And she said, eggplant. And see, I was like, okay, that's a shocker, but I was a bias against vegetables, so yes, but mindfulness, you can write in journals how you feel, because people like, I'm angry. Is it that you're angry? Is it that you're upset? Is it that you're irritated? What is anger really? What is it that you're going through? So by journaling, you can actually come into, as you say, Ava, reflection, because people always say experience is the best teacher. I like to say that it's not the experience, it's the reflection of the experience that is the best teacher. So when you say reflection, that's like hitting it right on the head, hitting the nip right on the head.
We have a question from one of our guests, but before I get to that question, I think the question is so on time. Even reflecting this year, I feel like, the diversity and inclusion, at least at the company that I work for, they've really made a lot of effort, a conscious effort to making sure that it is well known that they are an inclusive company. And one of the questions, if our producer can put it back up, it was your opinion on the pronouns. And do you think that the auto signatures nowadays that do have the pronouns, the she, her, hers, do you believe that that's a good thing and should everyone use them?
In my opinion, I say you do what you think you should. That's just my opinion. I think that if you feel comfortable expressing yourself, he, she, him, they, you should be able to put that on there. And I don't think that anyone should stop you from that. I particularly don't, because I want everything to be based off my skill set, not whether how I classify myself, but how I based off my skill set, even to the point to where now you see on applications, even though you send in a resume, the application still has, ethnicity, how do you class, Latino, this, that, and the other. I think all that should be removed. That's just my personal opinion, because now when you see that and they're like, oh, it's just for data. Well, it's still classifying me in a category.
Right.
And based on that person's personal perspective or feelings, that can keep me out of the running.
The authentic signature. That's what I'm hearing. Much like what Action said in the first when we interviewed her earlier.
I love
I was going to bring up an interesting point. I think children are so impressionable, right?
Yes.
Seeing things from their friends. We've got all ever-changing climate. What's the best way to talk to children about these issues? Because I recently spoke to a child who showed me some pictures that his friend sent him. And, you can kind of get into that, where is it that you can start? What age should you start to speak to children about these kind of techniques and how to look at their friends and et cetera?
The one thing that I have to say, you start developing unconscious biases at the age of 3, because the world, you got social media, you got parents, you got friends, you got everybody that are an impression that's making an impression upon you. So I would say that the earlier that you can is around 3, to where they can comprehend things. Each parent is different. I don't tell a parent how to parent. You have to do what you feel is right for your child. Just like you always say about, or people always talk about racism, and racism is taught, because if you look at the generation, I always tell students, when my generation is dead and gone, you guys, it's going to be great. Millennials and everybody, it's going to be great, because they look at the people for who they are, not for, oh, well, you're black, or you're white, or you're Latino, or you're Asian, or whatever. They look at the person. When I speak to my daughters or whatever, they'll address a person by their name, not by whether their color is or where they live or how much money their parents make. And that's what I love about this generation. So as far as starting to teach a child, do what you think is comfortable, but like I said, I will never try to tell a parent how to parent. Do what you think is comfortable, but make sure that it's the truth. It's your version of the truth. It's what is really out there, not based on what people think you may, or how you think people may view you or whatever, because that's one of the things. How would people look at me if I accept this or if I do this? Just like pronouns.
Yeah.
How would people view me?
Well, Russell, we'll wrap up with one more guest question, and it kind of parlays off of what Ava just said about looking at the phone. How does social media distort unconscious bias?
If you look at social, and I always use this for like my wife and I, we're big NBA fans or whatever. And so social media, if you look at majority of the Black athletes, and I say because I'm a Black male, if you look at a lot of the Black athletes, they always perpetrate that Black men are always married to white women. If you look at majority of the Black athletes, in fact, majority of the Black athletes are actually married to Black women. But because of social media, the television and everything else, but you only see that Black athletes are with white women, which is incorrect.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, just different things.
Yes.
We could talk about this topic all day, but Russell, I'm going to wish you a happy holiday season, happy New Year. If we don't talk to you, always appreciate you coming on the show and allowing us to talk about these topics that need to be talked about. So thank you so much.
Anytime. I love it. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful and safe holiday.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And you can look up Russell online and on LinkedIn and Facebook. And I believe you have some books on Amazon as well, Mr. Russell, right?
Yes, I do. And I'm actually starting my company soon called The Right Coaching Group. So, hey.
I can't wait for that. Well, you're the right coach. That's
the right coach. Love it. You guys have a great one.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Russell.
I always enjoy having Russell come to the show. He's great. And I've actually connected with him on LinkedIn myself. Great to talk to. He posts a lot of really good stuff. And he's always really upbeat and positive. So
he is. He's got the smile, and he's just so easy to
even
talk
on LinkedIn.
to.
A lot of the stuff that he retweets or whatnot or shares is mainly positive, impactful stuff. So always a pleasure talking to him.
Yeah, that positivity. Just keep it going. It's great. Action,
Absolutely.
Russell.
Well, Ava, as we move into the next year, we want to talk about money, right? Financial time. It's a little volatile today in the market specifically, but a financial coach is who we have next. Her passion is simply to show women how to get good with money. Guys, you guys can take notes as well. At this time, I want to welcome Wahida Aziz to the show. Wahida, we were trying to get you on the show back in August, and it just never worked out. But I'm so glad you're here. Thanks so much for joining us. I told the guys they can listen in too, because this might be good.
Yes. Definitely they would get some nice tips and tricks as well. But yeah, thank you so much, Ava and Lawton, for having me. And yes, my name's Wahida Aziz. Thanks to everyone who's joining us today. I'm super excited to be here. I'm a financial coach and founder of Saved It Financial Coaching. I was able to save $100,000 at the age of 27, and now I get to teach other women and women of color how they can reach their money goals as well.
I'm already listening. $100,000.
I mean, you could just keep going with that train of thought.
You don't have to tell us the whole story, Wahida, but you got to tell us some of the story.
Yes, I'd like to know how you specifically are geared towards women. How did that kind of come about? Or are you just today speaking for women? What have you done in that realm for women's finance?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I niched down into like women finances really because really how I got started in the whole personal finance world was for my own gain. After my first job, in my first job after college, I was sitting in a large room with HR professionals kind of like telling us our benefits. They mentioned things like our 403b, an employer-sponsored retirement plan, and they mentioned things like an HSA, health savings account, and like the different investment opportunities within the two. And I was like, what? I was like, I don't know what's going on here. And I looked around the room and people were just kind of nodding along, like they understood. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, what do I not know? Like, I felt like I was behind professionally. Like money wise, I felt like I was behind my peers. I felt like I didn't know anything personal finance. And then that night I went home and I did a deep dive into everything personal finance. I read books, I watched YouTube videos, listened to podcasts, and like taught myself these money management tips and tricks. And I grew up at low income, so I felt like I didn't get this information. So I was like, oh, everyone else knows this. I just don't know it, just because maybe I just grew up low income, so it wasn't taught to me. So I was like, oh, it's up to me to do it. So I like self-taught essentially. And then once this was like 7 years in, and then once I was able to like save my $100,000 and everything like that, I went and talked to my sisters, kind of like, what are you doing? And like I talked to my family friends, kind of like what they were doing, and it turned out like actually they weren't doing much either. They didn't really fully understand the options they had, and I was like, oh wait, it's not just I didn't know thing. It's actually like a very huge educational gap within the US. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is, so like, let me actually teach you some of the things I learned. And it turns out that I actually liked doing it and I was actually really good at it. So I'm like, oh, let me just keep on doing this.
Love it. Yeah. There's the, I believe the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So a lot of it is really just education. For those like Ava who love to spend money, I mean, what are some of the tips and advice that you would have for at least maybe starting small?
Yeah, for sure. I guess there's a few things that I always want my clients to get to first. Because we always like want to get into like, oh, I want to like build wealth, and like I 100% want to get you there. But there's a few things that we want to get done first before we can get started in investing essentially. So one of the most important things would be to have an emergency fund. So in an emergency fund, it sounds like what it is, right? It's for emergencies. It's a matter of like when it will happen, not if. So maybe you unexpectedly find yourself in the hospital, or you have a root canal needing to get taken out, or like you lose your phone. Like things will happen, and we need to have like a small pile of money sitting there for us to kind of bail us out when we need it. And so have a fully funded emergency fund. A fully funded emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of your living expenses, essentially. So take a look at like if your paycheck stopped today, like what bills do you need to pay still? What things do you still need to pay to live, and multiply that by 3 to 6 months essentially. And then after that, then we're looking at paying off any high interest debt. So think about like credit cards. This is usually the most expensive form of debt people have. Like this can cost you upwards of like 30% of what you have taken out on debt. And that's so expensive, and it should not be legal. It should not be a thing, but that's for another time.
Yeah.
I've got
credit cards
on that.
Oh, they're tough. It took me until I was much older to understand that, paying money to have debt was kind of silly. I understand we do it with some of our assets and whatnot, but unsecured debt, bad idea. And so glad that I've withdrawn from all credit cards thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
Cryptocurrency is a question that I had for you. I know that my brother is actually a financial planner as well, and he said, over the last year, he's seen a very large increase with that in a lot of the portfolios. So I was just curious on your take on something like this, which is, you know, relatively still fairly new.
Yeah. So like you said, it's fairly new. Like we don't know which way it will go. Maybe it'll kind of like go to moon or whatnot, or like we really don't know, right? So like full disclosure, I do invest in cryptocurrency, but it's a very small percentage of my portfolio. Probably less, probably 2-ish%. So if crypto goes to zero, I'll be fine. But so like I invest when it comes to like more risky stocks like cryptocurrency, or even if you're investing in more like individual stocks, if you're like, oh, crypto is too much, maybe I just want to like dabble in like individual stocks. Like when you're looking at doing like more risk adverse investing, you want to think about it as money you're willing to lose. So it's not something you put 100% of everything you have in. So you can dabble in it a little bit, because we really don't know which way it will go. But be willing to lose it if it doesn't go our way.
It's extra money, the fun money, not the important money, right? I know we had a couple other questions like getting married. Should you keep your finances separate or joint? What are your thoughts on that? I know there's many other aspects to that, but in general, do you have some good tips of advice for someone getting married and their financial situation for women?
Yeah. I mean, that really just depends on you and your partner. Personal finance will always be so much more personal than it will ever be finance. So it just depends on your situation. As a general term, I don't think any couple should like 100% merge finances. It can always be nice to have like separate money to like maybe buy Christmas gifts or birthday gifts, or like some money so your partner doesn't know if you're like doing surprises. Or maybe it goes south and you just need a little bit of money, like divorces happen, right? Like they're actually very common. So maybe you just want to have some money set aside to like catch yourself if something were to happen or something like that. But it really depends on you and your relationship. I've been just like kind of personally, like me and my partner have been together 10 years, but our finances are for the most part, I'd say like 97-98% like separated. If we were ever to get married, it would probably still stay mostly separated. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Like we actually were talking with a mortgage lender, and they made us do like a quick budget kind of thing, and I had to kind of like guess our numbers for his side, because like I don't see everything he's spending or anything like that because I don't track his expenses. But then I kind of like had a guess on some of the numbers, and it turned out that I was actually like pretty spot on. So I'm like, oh, like pat on the back for me there. I'm like, actually like know what our numbers are and what the other person is spending. So it's like that trust is there. So like if that trust is there and you like are like, we have a few goals that we're saving for, like, but just essentially like separately, like if that works for you, that's fine. But there is a common thing you can do is essentially like have three accounts, or like 3 different ways of separating your money. One account will be for your like shared expenses, so like bills, your housing expenses, like groceries, all that kind of money can go into one account. And then for everything else, you can like keep it separate. But if you have like shared goals, maybe you're saving for a house or something like that, then you can like put money into like a shared account there. But it's really what works for you.
Gotcha. Another thought along that same vein is you're a financial expert advisor, Wahida. When should someone reach out to you for your services? What types of things can you offer as an advisor to someone?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different financial professionals. So depending on what you need, there might be a different person for you. I'm a financial coach, and I will take my clients from we'll build the financial foundation. So we'll go from maybe I don't know what I'm spending my money on at the end of every month. I don't know where my money is going to. We'll go to like, how do we pay large debts? How do we stop spending money on things that's not important to us? I teach a value-based spending exercise essentially. So we figure out what's important for you, and then we spend our money there, and then everything else we cut out, right? Because like money, no, we don't have infinite amounts of money. We're not the lucky ones there. So we've got to like figure out where is our money going to go, and then give it a job essentially. So yeah, I'll take them from I don't know where my money is going to this is how we're going to pay off your large debts. This is how we're going to open the bank accounts and checking accounts. So we have a system in place. So once that paycheck comes in, things are automated, and then we'll take them through the basics of investing as well. So you leave feeling comfortable either kind of doing everything yourself, even like within the investing world, because it actually is quite simple. Once you just learn about it a little bit, there is like a barrier to entry, because all of these like jargon and all these like words it can seem very intimidating. But once you get past that, like I said, personal finance is more personal than it is finance. Like I got C's in math. I cried during math class because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I understand personal finance. So like, you don't need to be good at math to like actually be good with your money, essentially. So,
Wahida, where can our viewers contact you, or how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn at Saved It FC. My website is Saved It Financial Coaching. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. I'm more than happy to chat. But yeah, thank you again so much for having me. This has been lovely.
Great advice tonight. Appreciate having you on the show, and thanks so much for logging in and spending some time with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wahida Aziz. Hey, start small, slow and steady wins the race, right?
Oh my goodness, that advice about credit cards, and yeah, I mean that stuff adds up. These are the everyday things that count. I just found out recently someone was taking money out of my account and I didn't even know. You know, right. You got to remember to cancel those subscriptions.
I'm not known as a saver by any means. I don't think anyone would describe me that in their first 20 words, but I will tell you over the past few years, I have been able to really discipline myself. A lot of it is discipline. It's it can be tough. You gotta sacrifice some things, but next thing you know, 6 months down the road, you're like, oh, I've got a nice little bit of money saved, and it's really good. And the emergency fund is huge because you just never know, especially in this world and climate we're in now. And the unexpected happens, it seems, all the time. So
you gotta be prepared, for anything coming at you these days. And we're selflessly get to have all these great guests to pick their brains, Lawton.
Yes. Well, speaking of that, our final guest, we saved the food for last. We always talk about these New Year's resolutions, and Action talked about commitment, and it can start at any time. Well, let's bring on our next guest, Charamaine, Chef Charamaine, I should say. Welcome to Hey That's Easy. Happy to have you on the show.
Yes.
I think you're on mute, actually.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Oh, you're so welcome. And Abe and I were just talking about how like New Year's coming, the diets are going to start coming in and rolling in. People are going to try to do some lifestyle changes. But in the current month that we're in, this is the time where we see a lot of the diets get off track. Now, that's just me speaking from personal experience, but you can certainly educate us on a more healthy lifestyle as we head into 2022. So I feel like the plant-based diet has gained a lot of steam over the past few years. I mean, you're looking at, there's stores that have a whole section dedicated to, a healthy lifestyle. And even at restaurants, you're seeing menus have a whole section of the menu that's dedicated to that. What inspired you to become a vegan chef?
So my story is kind of personal. Started about going on 16 years now. About 16 years ago, I was diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic. My grandmother was insulin dependent diabetic, and she passed away from her disease. And I, watched sort of helplessly, and we didn't understand the connection between food and medicine, and intentionality, and just some things that we know now, obviously, and the way food is prepared and certain things that you should stay away from. We didn't know that in the 90s. So, and I also come, from a family where you don't really question your elders. So, my grandmother used to take insulin but drink Pepsi. Now, I didn't know that's not what you're supposed to do. But, just a combination of lack of knowledge and just really some of the impacts of living in a food desert caused her demise. And then when I became a diabetic, I was going down the same path as my grandmother with like medicine. It seems as if the first and only remedy they have is medication. Food is never discussed. Your intentionality, your stress, what's going on in your life, how's your day, all those things impact your cells and impact the way food is absorbed and impact your mood and what you eat. And if you want to eat, all of that is layered. You just give somebody 5 prescriptions is I have seen in my experience, has not really been the best thing for the patient. So I've always been the family cook. Whenever there was Super Bowl parties or something like that, my kids would get fresh baked pies every week, every day. It's just something that I do. So I had to figure out how to eat better and eat differently. And on my journey, I realized that removing meat and dairy for me helped to lower my blood sugar. Now, everybody's body is different and everybody's metabolism is different. That's why I don't really promote quote unquote diet. It's more like a lifestyle change and an intentionality and understanding what works for you. But what worked for me was the impact, because there are a lot of things that happen to the meat and the dairy that's being produced that we're eating right now that's different than the 90s or the 80s even.
Sure.
So we don't really know the impact of the steroids and antibiotics, et cetera, that's in the meat, and you eat it, you have some sort of medical issue, and it can exasperate that. So I wanted to do something to help my community understand that you can eat healthy and it doesn't have to be nasty, because most people think, especially way back then, there was nobody talking about eating. There's no vegan, at least they weren't talking about it, and you couldn't talk to people about not eating meat and dairy, and you really had to make sure it tasted good. So I wanted to spread the message, but it needed to be relevant. And then it just took me on a journey that I've been on for the last over a decade of creating businesses that help people eat and live better.
So interesting you mentioned the 90s, because I have these conversations regularly. Like, I feel like my mom cooked everything, with shortening or something of that nature. And we always had, very balanced meals growing up. But I didn't think that there wasn't like we weren't using coconut oil then, and we certainly were not talking about, being a vegetarian at any. You're right, with those conversations can become awkward for those that aren't able to understand. Ava would know nothing about that because she's still in her 20s. So, but,
of course, I needed that. I needed that before another big year. No, definitely hearing what you're saying, and you actually started a business to show people that there are yummy options, that this can be a lifestyle. And yeah, I think for most of my friends and family that have tried to go vegan, they fail because of the access to those special occasion treats, recipes, things like that. So how does vegan Night Owl catering work? Do you have a certain clientele? Do people just try it occasionally? Who's your average customer who orders from Night Owl?
So Night Owl Vegan is a vegan weekly meal subscription service. We create breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, and snacks. We also do things like brunches for New Year's and Christmas and holiday dinners, etc. The way it works is that our menu changes probably once a month. It's always seasonal, and it's always made with certain herbs and spices that are relevant for that particular part of the year. One of the things that's special about our food is that we really concentrate on things like turmeric, which helps reduce inflammation, and things like hibiscus tea, which lowers blood pressure, and garlic and ginger, and everything that we use has some sort of medicinal impact that is based from the ground, not a pill. So they order their food usually on Tuesdays, between Tuesday and Thursday, and meals are delivered on Sunday. And customers order every week. I've moved from Philadelphia. I'm in Maryland now, so I'm able to extend my delivery to Wednesdays and Sundays instead of just Sundays. So I've been able to expand my services. So that's how customers are able to check us out. If you wanted to go to Instagram, it's notnight.owlvegan. So you can see some of the pictures and some of the menus that we put up when we were fully in business.
We're seeing pictures right now, and I don't think there's anything that doesn't look absolutely delicious. I think everything looks great, especially the breakfast items. And I think I saw it, like, is it a cheesecake?
Yeah, that's a mango cheesecake. One of the things that's really important to me is to help people understand that it's good. And that's one of the fallacies. One of the things that I hear most of the time is that eating plant-based is expensive and it's like a salad. Well, clearly we eat more than salad, but it also, requires a little bit of time, which is why the Night Owl Vegan really works, because a lot of times people want to eat healthier, but it does, to be truthful, take time to get wonderfulness out of beans. It's not, you could just, like a piece of meat, you could put some barbecue sauce on it and just like call it a day. But there is some skill and some time that's needed. So it's not like people don't want to. It's just the time that it takes to get it done and have it to the point where they feel like they can enjoy it and they don't feel like they're sacrificing. That's why it's not really a diet. What you eat is not just what you eat in the mouth. It's what you listen to, how much news you allow yourself to absorb. Do you give yourself time during the day to kind of get centered, so you can kind of be steady before you sort of eat of the world? So, it's more than just the eating of the food. It's sort of an intentional way of moving through the earth, in my opinion.
Question from one of our guests. You have a few simple solutions or substitutions, rather, that can be healthy and easy to incorporate, maybe for someone who's transitioning to a more plant-based lifestyle.
Sure. So applesauce is really great to use in a baked good if you're trying to get rid of eggs. Eggs is a binder, and all it really does, the baking soda and baking powder helps to have your product rise. But in certain recipes, egg is just a binder. So you can do banana, you can do applesauce unsweetened, because a lot of time you're already putting sugar in it. Put sweetened applesauce in your recipe, it'll be too sweet. So applesauce is a great thing as a substitute. I would say milk sometimes is, which plant-based milks to use sometimes can cause questions. So soy milk in general, drinking too much soy is not good for women because it can give us issues in regards to reproduction. And most soy is GMO modified, which means there are things within the soy that are not great for the inside of your body because your body is not adapted to it. So a great milk that's creamy, rice milk is not, because it's thin and it won't give you that creamy sort of feeling. I would say try hemp milk. I've been starting using flax milk, which is awesome. Has no flavor. It's creamy. And oat milk is great, but sometimes it's too thick. And one other quick throw together dinner. Sometimes if you want to eat vegetables, but you need to throw something together real quick, you can throw together a quick roasted vegetable pizza. You can get a pizza crust from the store with some canned pizza, some jar pizza sauce if you want, or you can make your own. And then you can put a bunch of vegetables in the oven. And by the time you get everybody settled, sit down, wash your hands, have a cup of wine. Only takes 15 minutes to roast a pan of vegetables, any kind of vegetables you want. You put them on your pizza with a little bit of cheese, and you have dinner in 20 minutes. So those are 3 quick alternatives.
Great tips. Great tips. And then one more time, Charmaine, where can we can find you on Instagram, right? And if someone was looking to order some of yours, so you've seen the website right there, that is the Plant Powered Shift right there.
Right. So just so there's no confusion, I created a couple of businesses. So Plant Powered Shift is sort of the umbrella of the business. That's where I have my lectures, my cooking classes, and my coaching. I have programs where I help people transition into a plant-based lifestyle. Within Plant Powered Shift, there's also Night Owl Vegan, which is the weekly meal delivery service. And you'll also find on my website Naturally Sweet Desserts, which is my vegan bakery. So if you are looking for information, you can go to Plant Powered Shift and you can see information about all three of my businesses. And there you can get them all both on Instagram and my website, Plant Powered Shift, to make everything easy for you. You can find
Really
all the
appreciate you being here. Yeah, absolutely. This is all great information. I think we all need to eat better. That's something I think most of us can agree on. And thank you so much for the tips and coming on our show tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome, everyone. Thank you for the tips and thank you for having me.
Happy holidays to you.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays. Have a wonderful 2022.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Fairbairn, yeah, that's something that, I got to be honest, I'm very interested. Would definitely take a shot at that. I feel like over the years, vegan, that lifestyle, I was vegan for a whole year before my wedding 10 years ago. Yeah, and I made the commitment. I got to be honest, like I lost 40 pounds and never worked out with it. Probably felt the best I ever did.
So it works.
There are days where and it worked for me at that time. And I would consider doing it again, especially after looking at some of those food options. I feel like the food has certainly evolved, and now the society, we're so foodie in this society, wouldn't surprise me. I never thought to try any type of hemp milk. That's interesting. Very interesting.
I have not seen it in the grocery store as of yet, but I'm going to look for it. No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if they're coming out with all these new, I just had one of those, what do they call it? Impossible burgers.
Yeah.
Yesterday, and I thought it tasted just like a real burger. So I think we should be open to trying these things, and it can be healthier. And yeah, New Year's coming up. I'm so thankful for her sharing those recipes.
Yeah, try some stuff, find what you like, and roll with it. So, episode 1 of season 2 is done, Ava. Yep. We did it.
Yay!
Fantastic. We everyone that checks out our show, please share our episode from our YouTube page, like us on Facebook. Watch out for episode 2 coming in January of 2022. And of course, to all of our great viewers and supporters and guests, we certainly thank you for supporting us all for a full season already in 2021. And for Ava, Benny in the background, our producer, I'm Lawton Luntz. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, that's easy. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.